Grab your shovel.
I'll tell you where to go. On mark and set.
Hey, don't.
Go.
We started with an ant-infested strip of sandy Florida soil. Then we had 3,000 pounds of compost dropped in our driveway. And somehow, in the middle of building a food forest, a raccoon decided to move into our attic. So this is the story of how we started turning one small corner of our backyard into a suburban Florida food forest. What we did, what went wrong, and what I'd do differently next time. Hi, I'm Destiny, a certified arborist in Tampa Bay, Florida, and this is Cultivated by Destiny. This channel is about trees, gardening, home projects, and learning how to create beauty from the land you already have. And today, we're starting with the foundation of everything, the soil. This area started as a sandy strip in our backyard, about 9 feet by 30 feet, so around 270 square feet total. We're in Central Florida, Zone 9B, and like a lot of Florida yards, our soil is extremely sandy. It drains fast, it doesn't hold moisture well, and it doesn't have a lot of organic matter. And because our yard is on a hill, we're also dealing with erosion. So before this space could become beautiful, productive, or even close to a food forest, we had to fix the foundation first. The first step was not planting, the first step was shaping the space. We dug out the excess sand, leveled and shaped the area, and moved all the sand back onto the hill where we needed more support. It was not the pretty part of the project, but it was necessary, because before you can build something beautiful, sometimes you have to deal with what's happening underneath. Once the area was shaped, we started building a paver border around the food forest bed. Now, a border is totally optional. There are plenty of people who build food forests without borders, and there are definitely cheaper ways to do this as well. You could use natural materials like logs, oak branches, stones, or whatever you already have on your property. But for this space, we wanted it to feel more intentional and organized, not just like a random garden bed, but an edible landscape that connects with the rest of the yard. Something beautiful, useful, and alive. So we used pavers and landscape adhesive to create a small retaining edge around the area. It's not a huge wall, but it gives the bed structure and helps hold the compost, mulch, and soil in place. And honestly, we also chose to secure it because our child and our dog love to stand on borders like this. If we didn't glue it, I already know within 3 weeks it would be crooked, separated, and driving me crazy. So for us, the border was part function, part style, and part survival. But this is also where we made our first mistake. The reason we chose bulk compost is because buying individual bags would have gotten expensive really fast. This area is around 270 square feet, and I had already spent about $100 on bag compost and barely made a dent. That's when I realized if you're going to build this space up properly, bags were not going to be the best option. The truckload we brought in was about 5 cubic yards of compost for $100 cash. That's around 135 cubic feet, which is basically the same as 1 cubic feet bags. At today's prices, that could easily be close to $600 in bag compost before taxes. And that's not even counting loading it, unloading it, hauling it, and moving all those bags by hand. So for a project this size, bulk compost made way more sense. And here's what I would do differently. I would not have delivered it until the border was completely finished and we were ready to move it right away. Because once the compost was sitting in the driveway, Florida decided to add a plot twist. At the time, we were excited and trying to keep the project moving, so we had the compost delivered before everything was fully ready. And then we had about 3,000 pounds of compost sitting in the driveway, and apparently we weren't the only ones interested in it. Shortly after the compost was delivered, a raccoon decided to move into our attic through our soffit. So while we were outside trying to build a food forest, this raccoon was inside trying to build his own little homestead above our ceiling. I didn't know if it was the smell of the compost, the chaos of the project, or if he just saw us working hard and thought, this seems like a nice place to settle down. But that became a whole side quest. If you do take one thing from this video, do not accidentally open a raccoon Airbnb with a pile of compost. Lesson learned. You're bringing in a big compost delivery, have your border finished, your tools ready, and a plan to move it as soon as possible. Because in Florida, compost does not just attract plants, sometimes it apparently attracts tenants. Once we were finally ready, we started moving the compost from the front yard to the backyard by wagon. When I say this was a workout, I mean this was a workout. This is one of those projects where halfway through you start questioning every decision that led you there. But compost is one of the most important parts of this entire project. Florida sand drains quickly and does not naturally hold a lot of nutrients. So adding organic matter helps the soil hold moisture, support root growth, feed soil life, and slowly become healthier over time. As an arborist, I think a lot about what's happening below the surface, because a tree can only be as healthy as the soil and the root system supporting it. So even though this part was exhausting, it was worth it. This is the part where we weren't just making the space look better, we were starting to build the foundation for everything that would grow here later. One of the biggest things I'm learning through this project is that this is not just about planting fruit trees, it's about rebuilding the soil.
Yay! Look at that. It's beautiful. It's even better than I imagined.
We're also dealing with ants in the entire yard. And Florida sandy soil, ants become a real problem. I don't want to look at it as just an ant problem. To me, it's a clue that this space is still out of balance. The soil here is sandy, dry, and low in organic matter, so the long-term goal is not just to fight pests, but to build a healthier little ecosystem. That means compost, mulch, moisture, plant diversity, and creating a space where beneficial insects and soil life can actually thrive. That's where my background as a certified arborist really comes into this project. I think about root health, soil structure, organic matter, water movement, and how trees survive long term, not just how they look the day they're planted. So for this food forest, I don't want to just plant in the sand and hope for the best. I want to build the foundation first, because Florida gardening is beautiful, but it really does start beneath the surface. So that's part one of turning the sandy strip of our backyard into a Florida food forest. We shaped the space, we built the border, brought in compost, accidentally attracted a raccoon, and started rebuilding the soil from the ground up. But in part two, this is really where it finally starts to look like a food forest. We're going to get into planting, the layers, the mulch, the watering, the fertilizer, and what I'm learning as this space becomes its own little ecosystem. If you're in Florida working with sandy soil or trying to create something beautiful and useful in your own yard, I hope this encourages you to start with the foundation first. Leave me an ant emoji below if you're also dealing with ants in Florida. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss part two. This is Cultivated by Destiny, where I'm cultivating a life rooted in nature, beauty, and purpose. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.